This harrowing experience took place during my high school years. Our school had 4 levels, or so I thought. The top 3 floors were above ground, while the basement housed engineering classes. There were about 5 or 6 staircases throughout the school and 2 elevators for handicapped students or those with injuries. Until my senior year, I had never been on one of those elevators, but one day after school, I decided to sneak onto one. School ended at 2 p.m., but I had a club meeting that didn't start until 2:45. With nothing to do for those 45 minutes and not enough time to drive home, I opted to wander around the school. That's when the idea to hop on the elevator came to me. Although you were supposed to need a teacher's card to access it, a friend had taught me a trick to bypass this. In about 30 seconds, I was inside. I had no real intentions and didn't plan on staying long since I figured someone would eventually check the security camera inside. To my surprise, the elevator was quite nice. The walls were elegantly designed, and the tiles on the floor were far better than expected for our school. Glancing over at the buttons, I felt an irresistible urge to press them all. But then I noticed something below the buttons, a crack in the frame. Curious, I tapped it and found it hollow. Despite not being a rebellious student, my curiosity got the better of me. I broke open the frame and discovered a hidden button. A wave of exhilaration washed over me. Should I press it? After standing there looking like an idiot for a few seconds, I decided there was nothing to lose. It was my senior year and I hadn't gotten into any trouble, so why not have a bit of fun? I pressed the button and the elevator descended. The movement was slow and it seemed to take longer than it should, suggesting we were going farther underground than the engineering floor. When the elevator finally stopped, the doors opened. I stepped out, pressing the button to send the elevator back up so nothing would look out of place on the security camera. Immediately, I noticed an older vending machine, maybe from the 70s, but it still seemed functional. I put $1 in, and sure enough, a soda came out, a genuine 1970 glass Coke bottle. Excitedly, I whispered to myself, "Forget the meeting, this is too cool." 3 hallways stretched before me, left, right, and straight ahead. I chose to go straight, a decision I would soon regret. The hallway was lined with classrooms, their doors' windows revealing old desks arranged as if ready for use, not stacked for storage. It was eerie. These rooms looked like they were waiting for students, yet they were abandoned. I concluded this floor must have been used in the past, but was now forgotten. Still, why were the desks set up if the floor was unused? This question gnawed at me as I pulled out my phone to take pictures, intending to share them with friends once I had service. The bell rang, a classic school bell, not the modern buzz we had upstairs. It was only 2:50, and our after-school bell rang at 3 p.m. How had this bell rung daily without anyone upstairs hearing it? Maybe its underground location muffled the sound. But another question arose. How did students get down here? I saw no stairs, only this secret elevator. Continuing down the hallway, I noticed different colored lockers. Inside the first one, I found a school bag, notebooks, and folders. Each locker I opened contained similar items, abandoned yet undisturbed. This bizarre discovery heightened my unease. Nevertheless, my curiosity pushed me on. I tried opening a classroom door. It opened effortlessly. Inside, it looked like a history classroom, complete with a globe on the teacher's desk. As I approached the desk, I heard footsteps outside. Panicking, I hid under the desk. "Did you open this door, Timothy?" an older voice asked. "No, sir," a younger voice responded. "Back to class," the older man commanded. Class? In this abandoned floor? The door closed and the footsteps faded. I peeked out and saw no one. My curiosity turned to fear. I rushed to the hallway, but a man stood 20 feet away, facing the other direction. "And where might you be going, lad?" he asked, turning to face me. He seemed to be in his late 50s, dressed in period clothing matching the rest of this eerie scene. Back upstairs," I stammered, terrified. Upstairs? He questioned. This is the only floor in this school. Could you show me the exit? I need to get home, I asked, trying to sound brave. Right this way, he said, leading me toward the end of the hall where I saw no exit. Seizing my chance, I bolted toward the elevator. As I passed a classroom, I saw students and a teacher who hadn't been there before. Panic-stricken, I hit the elevator button repeatedly, but it didn't come. The man, now radiating rage, ran toward me. I dashed down the right hallway, shorter than the others. My only option was to hide in a classroom. I locked the door and pulled down the shade. Turning around, I saw a kid with a demonic smile. "Do you want to play?" he asked in a twisted voice, advancing toward me. I grabbed an old textbook and unlocked the door, finding no one there. I sprinted back to the elevator, the kid now chasing me. More doors opened, revealing teachers and students chanting, "Join us down here!" Reaching the elevator, I pressed the button frantically. It opened just in time, and I jumped in, pressing the close button. The kid almost made it inside, but I threw the textbook at him, which passed through him. Still, it bought me enough time for the doors to close. The chanting stopped, and the elevator ascended. I burst out of the building, ignoring the teachers, and ran to my car. Checking my phone, I saw it was past 3:30, but all my pictures were gone. Shocked, I called my friends, who didn't believe me. I convinced them to meet me at the elevator the next day. We got inside, but the hidden button was gone and the frame was intact. A security officer caught us, and we got in trouble, but I didn't explain my story, fearing more trouble. Days later, I asked about the security footage, but they claimed it was deleted. To this day, no one believes me, but I know what I saw, and it haunts me forever. I was 17 when this horrifying experience took place. With my parents away in Atlantic City for the weekend, I decided to invite a few friends who lived down the street over to my house to play video games and hang out. I was expecting 3 friends to join me. 2 of them promised to be at my house in about 20 minutes, while my 3rd friend mentioned he had to finish some chores for his parents before he could join us. He sounded excited on the phone, telling me he had a new game he was bringing over for us to play. I assumed it would be something like UFC or Madden, but boy, was I mistaken. Around 8 p.m. on that Friday night, 2 of my friends finally showed up, and we began playing FIFA and 2K, enjoying ourselves immensely. After about an hour, my 3rd friend arrived. I opened the door to find him grinning from ear to ear, but instead of holding the games I expected, he was clutching a Ouija board. Up until this point, I'd only heard about Ouija boards and had never actually seen one in person. Honestly, I never believed in them or the horror stories associated with them. I always thought they were total bullshit. My other 2 friends shared the same sentiment. After my friends finished their game of 2K, we decided to give the Ouija board a try, expecting nothing to happen. To make it scarier, I suggested we play in the basement with the lights off. Everyone agreed, and we made our way downstairs. The friend who brought the Ouija board explained the rules. We played for a while, and at first, nothing paranormal happened. Just as I started to feel vindicated in my skepticism, one of my friends suddenly began choking out of nowhere. It didn't sound like the usual choking on a drink or food. It sounded as if he was being strangled by someone. He struggled to speak, begging us for help, but we couldn't see what was choking him. His eyes were watering and turning red, filled with pure terror. It all happened so fast. After about 30 agonizing seconds of being choked by an unseen force, whatever was choking him finally let go, and he gasped for air. In a state of panic, we all rushed upstairs. In the light, I checked on my friend, and what I saw was horrifying. A big red handprint around his neck. Naturally, he was so freaked out that he left and went home immediately, which was understandable. The rest of us stayed and tried to make sense of what had just happened, but we couldn't come up with any explanation. It was unexplainable. We all saw the red handprint around his neck, so we knew he wasn't acting or trying to prank us. Besides, he wasn't the prankster type. We sat upstairs for a while longer, our conversation dwindling as we remained in shock from what had happened. I told my friend not to forget his Ouija board in the basement because I definitely didn't want that thing in my house. Eventually, both of my friends left, and I was all alone. It was around 1 a.m., and the house felt eerily silent after everyone had gone. I tried to make myself fall asleep and eventually did. From that night forward, up until now, about 4 years later, I've experienced a lot of odd and unexplainable things in and around my house, especially in the basement. These occurrences only happen when I'm home alone, and never when my whole family is home. From things being out of place to knocks on the wall, and the feeling that someone is watching me at night, to faint whispering in the basement, it's gotten to the point where the basement is nearly a no-go zone unless I absolutely have to go down there for storage. None of my friends have ever come over late at night again, and the friend who got choked, I barely hear from him at all. Paranormal activities have become a regular part of my life since that fateful Ouija board night. I've grown somewhat accustomed to it now after 4 long, terrifying years, but I will never forget that night that changed everything. This is a true story that took place when I was about 16. Now, as a college student, my family has since moved into a different home, yet I still find myself thinking about our old house from time to time. It wasn't an inherently spooky house or anything. It was pretty normal. However, there was something about the basement that always felt off to me, at least. My parents would often dismiss my feelings, telling me I was just overthinking things. Yet, every time something strange occurred, my mom would always make a protective charm for me, as if she knew there was something amiss. It was a seemingly ordinary day when the first unsettling incident happened. Coming from an Asian family with lots of siblings, I was washing dishes and had asked my brother to come cook rice before our parents got home. The sink was right next to the door leading to the basement, a door that was always closed unless someone was downstairs. Seeing it open, I assumed my brother was in the basement. But no matter how much I called for him, he didn't respond, and my impatience grew. I stopped washing dishes, went to the door, and shouted down to him to hurry up before I got angry. I heard him laugh and faintly reply, "You're so stupid. I'm not even down here." Confused and irritated, I yelled back, "Obviously you're down there if you're replying. Hurry up before I kick your ass." Again, he laughed and said, "I'm not even down here." Anger surged through me as I believed he was just wasting time. I ran downstairs, our basement a dim and cramped space, but there was one room down there we called the computer room. Its walls didn't reach the ceiling, so if the light was on, it would be visible from outside the room. I didn't bother to look. Instead, I slammed the door open, only to be greeted by darkness. My brother was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, a chilling coldness crept down my spine. Without another word, I bolted upstairs, slamming the basement door shut behind me. Panic set in as I immediately started yelling for all my siblings to gather in the living room. I asked them if they had heard me yelling. They hadn't. I then demanded to know where my brother was. He emerged from his bedroom, insisting he never heard me call for him. But if he hadn't replied to me, who had? When my parents got home, I told them what happened, but they didn't believe me. They insisted there was nothing in our house. End of story. Yet, after that incident, I began experiencing more eerie events in the basement. Faint laughter, a ghostly touch on my shoulders and back, as if someone was trying to get my attention, only to turn around and find no one there. I tried to suppress these experiences as much as I could, but they still creep back into my mind from time to time, sending chills down my spine and reminding me of the uncanny presence in that basement.